The Brisbane punk scene had its main impact between 1975 to 1984. The Brisbane punk scene can be divided into 4 phases. We have the pioneering chapter, where we have the bands such as Saints starting out in 1975 to 1977. We have the second phase, which started in 1978 to 1980. Then we had the third phase, which lasted from 1981 to 1984. Then we have the fourth generation, which is the 2000s, and we have a band called Violent Soho. Violent Soho started in 2004 in the suburb of Mansfield. Violent Soho's music has often been compared to the 1980s alternative rock, with bands such as the Pixies and Nirvana. In this wonderful interview today, we had the wonderful Mikey from Violent Soho come and speak to us about how they formed as a band and how everything got together. So we'll roll the clip.
So the Brisbane scene.
Oh, the Brisbane scene's awesome. I mean, it's always one thing I love about the Brisbane music scene, and anyone that's really been involved in it. It's just always been so positive. And I guess like with the rock scene and the punk rock scene, it's come from like a really tough place. There's a really great book on the history of the Brisbane punk scene and music scene in general called Pig City. I don't know if you've heard of it, but you should check that book out. It's really worth reading. And it talks a lot about you know, the premier Joe Peterson from the like 70s and the 80s, you know, like proto-fascist sort of a premier. The police, it was like a police state, Queensland was in that time. And so the punk scene, bands like the Saints stopped kicking off, and the Go-Betweens, and going on from there. So these are some of like the earliest punk bands, sorry, little 2-year-old lamb. I mean, coming from such an oppressive background, it was such a positive thing for like bands back then. In Brisbane, there was nothing to do. There was like, I mean, I wasn't around back at this time, but just really brief little history. You know, like people couldn't hang out in groups of 3s in the city, things like that. So it was a totally oppressive sort of a place. And then shops like Rocking Horse popped up, started selling Dead Kennedys records and changing young people's lives and introducing people to music. There was no internet back then. And it just gave people this positive way of looking at, you know, a way of expressing that anger of being so oppressed by this system of the society that Brisbane was back in those days. Like pre-Expo 88, there was just really nothing for young people to do. And so it's interesting coming from that sort of a dark background. People have always had like this real positivity. I don't know if it's just that Brisbane's got such good weather and it's such a sunny, happy place that people can't like not be happy with making music. But I mean, if you look at the history of some of Brisbane's best or most famous rock bands, like, you know, look at bands like Custard, Regurgitator, even Powderfinger, like it's all positive, happy stuff. And I think that still carries through today with bands coming out. Like our music, I know, has like a lot of darker sentiments to it, but it's still like at the core of it is very positive. I don't think you can get something like that coming out of Melbourne, for example. It's way too sad over there. So that's one thing I love about the Brisbane scene. It's just like always got that underlying positivity about it, which is really great. And when you're involved in it, like I don't know, everyone who works at 4ZZZ and people that are involved in the music scene, putting on gigs, everyone is always just so happy to be there. It's just so great.
Yeah.
At the start of Violent Soho, it was really hard. They couldn't really get anywhere. They were trying, and like just the people weren't really responding to it, and it was just hard. They were making music and no one was really responding to it and stuff. So the next video we have is about just Mikey and his experiences and how the band sort of come together and just how they ended up to be now. So yeah.
How long did it take to get your first gig?
Oh, well, We've been around for a while. We went to school together, so I've known the guys in the band since I was in grade 8, which is 20 years ago. But the band didn't really start until like just after high school, so probably 15 years ago. We started having like band practice regularly in like 2003, but regularly as in like maybe once every 2 months have a jam, and I guess maybe about a year and a half after that we thought let's do a gig. So it took a while, but it was just like small steps. Like 2 of the guys in the band couldn't even play their instruments when we started the band. Like they literally didn't play the instruments, they just bought them to like be in the band.
Yeah.
Because we just wanted to hang out. We were just the guys at school that had the same tastes in music as each other. And as it turns out, one of us was pretty good. Luke Autumn is an awesome songwriter, and we were like, man, this is actually good, we should do some gigs. And just went on from there. But we were never really like ambitious in that way that we were like chasing doing gigs. It just sort of like seemed to make sense because we thought, hey, this music's good, let's share it if we can.
Cool. That kind of leads into the next question. It seems a lot of people in like Brisbane, at least like I know, and that they seem really passionate about the music, but they're worried about picking up an instrument. They just think they weren't getting good. How long would you say it took for you to get like good at an instrument or like confident?
Well, yeah, I've been playing drums since I was about 11 or 12 years old. And I was raised in church, like Pentecostal Christian church. So when I didn't really like want to just like sit there in church when I was a kid, and I played drums, so it made sense to like hop on the drum kit at the church and start banging on that. And that's sort of how I started playing. Really, was just like there was a drum kit at the church I went to. So I would like, and my dad was a pastor there, so I would hop up on the drum kit when everyone had left the church and he was still there doing paperwork or whatever, and just go from there. And then I started playing in the church band eventually. G'day, mate. And so, you know, all I'm saying is I've been playing for a while, so I think, you know, like, I got good ages ago.
Yeah, alright. So you're around from like 2004? Yeah. That was like a question actually, I forgot what I was actually asking. Alright. What I was getting to was, did it ever feel like, because you guys were around for so long, and you recently got like pretty successful, you got the ARIA and that.
Oh sure, yeah, that's telling you that. Yeah, I mean, our band has been around for a really long time. I mean, like before we got popular, we'd like already gone through this whole phase of like, being signed to a major label in America, having all this money spent on our first album, to then being like dropped and it almost not even being released, and then like because we like released the album in Australia before we released in America before we released it in Australia, Triple J was like, no, we're not going to play it. So Triple J didn't even play it, and like we all came, like we moved our whole lives over to America with our wives and our girlfriends and stuff, and we were there for like a year, and then we came back and like getting jobs at McDonald's and stuff, and moving back in with our parents, and almost like the band almost totally stopped back then. We took a bit of a break, like maybe a year or like not really doing much, and just slowly got back together, started doing it again. Hit up our mate Bryce, who'd done some of our earliest demos that we'd recorded, and just got into the studio and decided we're going to make a record, and that was what was Hungry Ghost, you know, and it was just like a low budget, like just with our mate who wasn't even like a full-time producer. He was like being a tree lopper at the time. Like he'd stopped recording bands altogether at the time, and we got him back into doing it, and we just got together and did the record, and it ended up being like just so much better doing it that way. You know, it was like the honest way for us to do it on our own terms, and I think that was the result of like how the album turned out. It just, people really just, it's a more organic sounding record, and it just seemed more honest and more like true to like Aussie sort of culture, and I guess that just sort of hit home with people, and all of a sudden we got popular, and we were like in the top 20 in the hottest 100 and selling out shows, and yeah, everything's been good since then. It's just gotten better and better to the point of, yeah, like our last headline show in Brisbane was River Stage.
Violent Soho has had many achievements throughout the years, and definitely more to come. But Violent Soho's Hungry Ghost album has gotten gold so far, and their fourth album, Waco, debuted at #1 on the iTunes charts and ARIA charts in 2016, which is really big. And recently, Waco has gotten gold, so that's very big.
Thank you.
It's really been involved in it. It's just always been so positive. And a city, I don't know if you've heard of it, but you should check that book out. It's really worth reading. And it talks a lot about